Hi, this is Alicia Bowling with Creative Laughter TV Beyond Logic. Today our guest is a spirit medium, teacher, speaker, hypnotherapist, which allows her to connect with your past life. She's also a certified medium with the Forever Foundation and recently featured as a healer medium on Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop.com. It is my great pleasure to introduce to you Gina Simone. Hi, Gina.
Hi, Alicia. How are you?
Good. I am so excited to talk to you. I actually just got chills when I said that. I find you so fascinating, and I think people are going to really love this. But first, I want to start off. I always like to ask my mediums and my psychics, how did you actually get started in this? Was this something that you were actually born with? Was it something you developed down the line because you had an epiphany, or how did that happen for you?
Okay, well, everyone's story is really different. I always had something growing up, sort of like this innate knowing. I remember being, a little girl and kind of sensing if someone was going to pass, and then later on being told that they had passed, or I would see things in the hallway of the bedrooms or up in my room. So I just kind of knew that there was something going on. But of course, coming from a all Italian family, we came here when I was about 3 years old. And not knowing the language and learning the language, this was all very foreign. So my parents were not understanding at all when I would say to them, I see things or I hear things. They were actually really scared. And I remember when I was about 11 years old, they moved my bedroom up to the attic of the house. And that's when all of the activity started.
Oh my God, well, that's spooky just alone.
I know. Everyone thinks attic spooky, but it actually was a really nice bedroom. We had, wallpaper and everything. It was really cute for a little girl's room, but I was up there all by myself, and I just kept feeling activity, and I didn't know what activity I was feeling, but I kept getting sensations. And I remember being 11 and I was sitting on my bed doing my homework, and I remember the bed right beside me. There was an impression made on the bed as if someone were sitting right beside me, and I saw the comforter go down like someone was sitting right next to me. And I come screaming down the stairs all the way down to the kitchen. My mother's making dinner, my father's sitting there at the kitchen table, and I'm like, somebody was sitting on my bed, and they're just looking at me like, what? And I remember my parents saying, this is enough. If you bring up this spirit talk one more time, we are going to bring you to the priest, because that's all my parents knew. All they knew was religion. And that was around the time, if you remember, The Exorcist when it came out.
Oh, God, yes.
And so I had heard about that movie and the person's head spinning. And I was just like, priest, no. And I was like, okay, fine. You know what? I'm never going to talk about this again. But the problem is you don't talk about it, but you still sense it. You're in class, or I would feel like there would be spirits around me talking in my ear or whispering or wanting to be heard. So most mediums do have some sort of connection to spirit from childhood, but not having the right tools, not having the right people around them, we don't know what to do with this. It's sort of like learning a new language. But I do remember from a very early age always feeling things ahead of time. And, my parents just thought I was weird. And I thought I was weird. I really do.
Well, what about your friends in school? I mean, did you ever sense things and tell them? Was anybody on board for this, or pretty much you were ostracized from everybody?
Since day one, I always remember telling my friends going, this is going to happen, or I see that happening, or they would come to me and they would say, this is going on. Do you see anything? And they weren't coming to me for readings. What they were doing is just this leaning towards me sort of like as a therapist. And I really loved it. I loved being able to give people information, or I see this happening, or you better be careful. I remember one time I was in Girl Scouts and I didn't have a ride home, and neither did a girlfriend of mine, and we lived in opposite directions. And I remember telling her, please be careful on the way home. I see a dog chasing after you. And she's just like, oh, that's ridiculous. Like, I don't live that far from here. Well, I later found out that day when she walked home that there was this German Shepherd that got out of its yard and literally attacked her and bit her leg. Now, that to me was like, well, I kind of told you so. Like, I wasn't freaked out about it. I literally came from I told you this was going to happen. You weren't freaked out.
Was she freaked out?
She was freaked out later. And then all of a sudden she was going in school and she was telling all people that I was like a witch. Because back then, this 40 years ago, this whole psychic mediumship, it was either you were a gypsy or you were a witch. So I remember her telling everyone she's like a witch. And instead of saying, wow, I should have listened to you, I'm sorry that I didn't. No, she took it as there's something weird with you. There's something foreign about you, and I'm going to let everyone know that you're strange. So as a little girl, I grew up completely having this gift with, I can't tell anyone, I can't share it because I'm going to be seen as different. Does that make sense?
Wow, that's rough. It's good. I mean, face it, school is already rough with kids, and then to have that on top of it. So how was it?
And then to have on top that, I came from a family where, my parents didn't speak English and I was learning English. And now I've got friends that think that I'm weird. So everything about my life was just so, I just kept saying, I'm not supposed to be on this planet at this time. Like, I just feel like I'm in the wrong family. I'm in the wrong planet. My whole life, I just kept thinking, what's wrong with me? Little did I know that, decades later, this was going to turn into a gift that was really here to kind of help other people heal.
Well, that's very interesting you say about the wrong family, because they say we choose the families we pick, whether it's just for the mother, the father, the whole unity, whatever the case may be. So that's very interesting, right?
Well, you know what? Everything happens for a reason. We all have that saying, but it really is true. Whether we understand it or not, everything really does happen for a reason. And we are here. We are spirits having a human experience, and everything that happens to us is happening to us for our highest good. Whether we can recognize it in the moment or not, it's all about learning, and it's all about processing, and it's all about identifying who we are and what our gifts are.
Well, what was it like, dating, getting married? I know you have a couple boys. What was that like? And what does your family think about this?
Well, dating was always tough because I was so desperate to be in a relationship that I would go on dates and I would hear a voice saying, he's not the right one. But because I was so desperate in needing to have someone, and, back then in the Italian world, it was you get engaged, you get married, and you have babies. Like, that was the whole point of this. Even though we're in the United States, my parents were still operating from this little town in Italy. So it's kind of like grab a guy, get him married, have children so that you're situated. So I would go on these dates and I'd be so desperate to be on dates, but I would hear the voice, he's not the right one. But I would stay in the relationship because, I was so afraid of being alone. My first marriage, I had 2 children, a boy and a girl. And my husband was very, very religious, and he was not open to any of this. His family was not open to this. So I had to hide it, even though in the household, I would see little kids walking around constantly. And I remember there was this one little girl that was with me, I want to say almost since about 13, 14. Her name was Maria. She was this dark-haired little girl. She was I almost want to say about 4 years old. She always traveled with me everywhere I went. She'd go to school with me. She'd go on dates with me. She was always with me. And I remember later on in life saying to my mother, but I got to be honest. I go, now that we're open about this and I'm doing this work, there's this little girl, Maria, and she keeps following me. And I described what she looked like, and my mother went white. And I just said to her, what's the matter? And she said, I lost a little sister, Maria. And she was about 3 or 4 years old. My mother had never talked about her, ever. Never mentioned her name, never said anything. When I described what she looked like, and then my mother's eyes just went white. She's like, how do you know this? And I'm like, she's been with me since I'm a little girl. And she said, this can't be. And I said, no, she's been with me. She's been playing with me. She's been growing up with me, although she stayed really little. My mother was like crazy. How can this be? She didn't understand it. She just didn't understand it. But so first 2 marriages, 2 children. Both my children are gifted in different ways because our gifts are always very different in how they manifest. But I had held back this gift because, as I said to you, my parents didn't really understand it. They were opposed to it. And when I got married, my firstborn, he was about 2.5. We had an in-ground pool in the backyard. And I remember saying to him, come on, honey. I said, follow mommy. We're going to the front of the house. And when I got to the front, I didn't realize he wasn't with me. I got to the front of the garage. I saw he wasn't there. I go running to the back of the yard. I see he's in the middle of the pool. I guess he had bent down with a bucket of water and now he fell in. He didn't know how to swim because he's only 2.5. He's coming up out of the water, like literally drowning, going, Mom, Mom, and then he'd fall back down. I dive into the pool, didn't even think 2 seconds, just dove in, clothes, shoes, all, dove into the pool, pushed him to the side. Thank God he was all right. He's spitting up water. He's okay. But as we came out of the pool, the entire perimeter of this 16 by 32 pool was filled with these white beings just standing there. And I had never seen beings before. I had only heard them in my head. But they were standing there. And I remember the message that they gave me telepathically was, you've been hiding this long enough. It's now time for you to start working on this gift and bringing healing and counseling to those who really need it. And from that moment on, I turned to my parents and I said, I know you never believed me. I kept really quiet about this, but they just saved your grandson. And wherever I'm supposed to go, I'm going to follow this because this was a gift that was given to me for a reason. And since that day, they never questioned it.
God, I love that story. That is
They never
fantastic. You know, I have to ask you because I've never heard this before. What is a spirit medium? It almost sounds like a Native American Indian type medium.
Okay. First of all, I have a lot of connection with Native American, and that also comes from childhood. Just the drumming, the feathers, the clothing. I used to collect Native American artifacts when I was young, and my mother's just like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "Oh, these are great, and these are crystals, and these are stones, and here's sage." And I would just do little talking sticks, and whatever I could as I went around, I would always collect it, and I never understood why. When I started doing this work, I'm not opposed to the title psychic medium, but there's this certain negative connotation that comes with the word psychic, right? So a lot of people
that's
think,
true. Yeah.
right? A lot of people think, oh my God, they know exactly everything about my life. They can tell me the lotto numbers. They know if my husband's cheating on me. Like psychic means we know all this information. Really what psychic means is that we are picking up information from the person's energy. So if there's a sadness, we'll pick that up. Or if they just, had a relationship breakup, we pick up information around them. Spirit medium to me, as you said, is more like the Native American. When we're actually getting information, believe it or not, whether it's psychic or mediumship, we're getting it from spirit. We just may not be identifying, oh, it's your grandmother that's telling me about your relationship or the boyfriend that just left you. But we're getting information from spirit. That means your loved ones. It means angels, guides, other energies or entities, other angels, other etheric beings that are here providing the medium with that information. So the reason that I'm trying to kind of get away from the whole psychic medium is because I don't want people to think that I can be at a party talking to someone, having a cocktail, and I'm actually reading their psychic energy. That's not what this is.
That's funny.
That's not how it works. So spirit medium is we are an intermediary between the spirit realm and the human realm. We are the channel, and we are getting our information from spirit because it all comes through collectively. We'll do readings, and a lot of people will say, well, who's giving you this information? Well, it's not necessarily one specific loved one from the other side. Spirit speaks collectively. So it's not like your mother steps up and says, oh, she wants to say your birthday just passed, happy birthday. It's spirit collectively that's saying that. Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, to me, it makes sense.
But to a lot of
but
people,
I'm the psychic girl.
Yeah, and a lot of people will say, oh, I went to see the psychic. And then I'll say, well, what type of reading does she do? Oh, she connects to the other side. I'm like, okay, so that's a medium. They're like, no, she's a psychic. And I'm like, oh, wow. I'm like, the average person doesn't know that there's actually a difference. There are psychics who just talk about things that are going on in your life, past, present, and future. There are mediums who connect to the other side. And then there are psychic mediums who do both.
Wow. The one thing I want to talk about too, because I find it so interesting. Like, did you ever have that sensation someone's going to call you and then the phone rings and it's them?
Yes.
Or you haven't seen someone for a long time and then all of a sudden you pass them on the street?
Yes.
What is the correlation between like dreams, deja vu? Does that mean that person's actually psychic? Does it mean you're getting messages somehow? And why is that information important?
Okay. So that's a really, really great question because specifically with my type of readings, I want to connect people to the other side, whether it's a loved one, whether it's an angel or guide, validating things about their lives. But what I also like to do is to remind everyone, we are all, each one of us, intuitive. We all have that sensation of, wow, I was just thinking about that girl from college. And then all of a sudden something showed up on Facebook and I read something about her. Or I was thinking about my aunt and she happened to leave a message on my machine. We all have that innate intuition that we were born with. The problem is that we live in this human experience and human world. So we don't pay a lot of attention or mind to that inner voice that says, hey, why don't you give so-and-so a call? Or I'm thinking of this person, let me reach out to them because maybe something's going on with them. Or, hey, I just knew that was going to happen. We don't pay a lot of attention to it. It does come up and then we say, oh, yeah, said to myself, bring an umbrella today, and I didn't. And look, now it's raining. So we always, after the fact, say, oh, I kind of knew that. But when the next episode comes, we don't listen to that innate voice. So our perception of reality, our innate intuition is always trying to talk to us to help us. And for the most part, as humans, if we don't see it, we don't believe it, right? Like most of us, we have to see it.
That's true, yeah.
Whereas our own gut is our best barometer whether to do something or not. And we've all been in that situation where you meet someone and you're just like, so, your friend is meeting them too, and your friend is going, oh my God, isn't she fantastic? Is she wonderful? And you kind of turn to your friend and going, are you kidding? Were we talking to the same person? Because your gut is telling you.
Or somebody walks into a room and you're like, why do I know that person?
Right.
Where do I know that person from?
That's a past life. That's a past life. So our intuition is always trying to talk to us, and our dreams, when we interpret them, are always trying to give us information into our subconscious. The problem is that because most of us don't grow up that way, we don't know to listen to it. We don't know to listen to your gut. So many times we have friends that say, hey, I've got this situation. What do you think? We try and process it from a cerebral standpoint, whereas we really need to turn to the person and say, well, what is your gut telling you? Because your gut is never wrong, ever. So we're always connected to the other side. We're always connected to spirit. It's not just psychic mediums that are connected. We're all connected, but we just don't rely on our own information because we don't trust ourselves, because there's nothing for us to hold or pinpoint or say, yeah, this is why I should listen to my gut. We have nothing to hold on to. It's just a fleeting thought. And then we don't give it enough credence. And then we end up thinking down the road, oh, wow, I really should have listened to my gut because my gut was always right. So that's why I always like to teach people to connect with their own intuition, connect with signs, with spirit on the other side. And that whole thing of deja vu, believe me, it happens with us too as psychic mediums. There's this whole theory out there that, we think we live a linear life, but there's this whole theory out there that there's this quantum time continuum that's out there, and we are living multiple lives at the same time. And that may be for another show, and we can talk about it another time. But deja vu is kind of like, hey, I just had this scene, or oh my God, this is so weird. I was just standing here and you were just saying the same thing. I'm revisiting it. We're always connected to something greater than ourselves, but because we're just so into our own bodies, our own minds, our own thoughts, because we can't see it outside of ourselves, we don't give it enough credence.
Right. Well, what about the dream thing? Because I've had dreams before where I've lost my teeth, my hair's falling. I'm like, what the hell is going on? What does that mean? And it doesn't really mean what you think it means.
No, it
doesn't
never,
mean your teeth are really falling out or your hair's
it
falling
never,
out.
It
so
never,
how do you even figure that out?
So like, let's take the dream of, which I used to get, like, a dog running after me or a dog barking. Someone can dream about a dog barking or attacking them, and they're like, oh my God, a dog is going to attack me. In reality, that dog is representing something in your life that you are not either confronting or that you're running away from. So the losing the teeth, losing the teeth is not about losing the teeth. It can mean something about, perhaps I'm just bringing this up because, each interpretation is different, but perhaps teeth means something about your vitality or your age or your beauty starting to leave and you saying, well, who am I if I don't have this, right? We take for granted.
Well, that sounds about right.
Yeah, does it? Okay. All
yes,
right.
it does.
So whenever people say, well, I dreamed about this, what does it mean? I always say, well, it's not what it means to me. What does that represent to you? What do teeth represent to you? What does a dog represent? What does water flooding into a house represent? Like, water coming into a home in a dream or flooding can be tears of emotion or tears that need to be shed or tears that need to be released. So each dream is subjective to the person. And I love people who are like, oh, I have to look it up in a book. Well, the book is only going to give you a general meaning. Each thing is different to us, which is exactly how psychic mediums work. When we get information, we're always interpreting. An apple to me means something completely different to you. I had a reading where this woman's mother was coming through and she just kept showing me hundreds of frogs everywhere, like just jumping. And I just said, oh my God, what's with the frogs and your mother? I'm good because I don't like frogs at all. And she started to laugh. She said, oh my God. She goes, my mother was obsessed with frog salt and pepper shakers. Everywhere we went, she had to buy a set. If she saw it somewhere on a trip or wherever we went, she had to buy it. She had this entire wall covered in of frog, salt, and pepper shakers. So now because Spirit is trying to get me that message to validate that, they're not going to show me the collection. They're going to show me, what does Gina understand? Gina understands frogs. That's why they showed me 100 frogs. So everything that Spirit speaks is always in our interpretation. It's never a one-to-one. Does that make sense? It's
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's interpretation. That's why dreams, when you have the dream, sit back. First of all, jot it down, have a little book right beside your bed with a little notepad, little pen. As soon as you wake up, write down immediately what you dreamt. You don't have to worry about interpreting it. Later on, go back, sit down quietly and just say, okay, what does this mean? Water flooding in. What is overflowing for me? What is flooding my life right now? And that's your subconscious that's kind of getting you to work through some of your issues. Because believe it or not, when we go to sleep, we think we're resting. Your spirit and your soul is actually connected to the other side. You're traveling. We're doing more work. We're learning. Because if you think we're only learning when we're awake, no, our body, our minds, our souls are working 24/7.
Wow. I am so fascinated by the hypnotherapy and past lives. I really do. When I first met Gina, she was recommended from a friend and we were talking on the phone and I just happened to be in the nail salon getting a pedicure. And out of the blue, she says to me, "What's with you in the dark blue sea?"
Do you
And I was
remember
just
that? Oh my God, I remember that. Yes.
That freaked me out because I'm from California and I used to swim so far in the ocean. My mom would scream, "Get back in here." But ever since I saw Jaws, I have not stepped foot back in the ocean since that movie. I am so in fear of the ocean.
Yeah.
And then Gina went and told me that I had a past life where I drowned and I was in the deep, dark sea. And so I found past lives so interesting. Tell everybody about the hypnotherapy and past lives and how you can bring this stuff into this life and it can actually affect you. You need to kind of work on it. Don't you agree?
Yeah, you do. And the thing with past lives is I try not to push it in my readings too much. If Spirit says, this person's open to it, then we'll definitely dive into that. But what was interesting about your scenario is what they actually showed me with you was myself. And I used to be a lifeguard. And after seeing that movie Jaws, just like you, I never stepped foot back. Now, meanwhile, I'm a lifeguard at a pool, swimming in the ocean. That's what I did as my summer jobs. And after that movie came out, I never stepped foot in the water again because what happened was that movie, similar to me, similar to you, triggered a past life event. And that's what happens. We could be A-okay with our lives, and then all of a sudden an experience happens and it triggers a memory of a past life. And now all of a sudden we have an issue. So they were just showing me myself when they were showing me you. So you and I both have drowned in past lives, which is now why we cannot get in any kind of dark water. They're also showing me for you.
That's correct.
For you that
even if I'm on a boat, by the way.
Yeah, no, I know. They're showing me even if you are in a pool at night, you get a little freaked out.
I do. I look around like there's piranhas in there or something stupid. I don't even know what makes me think that crap.
Right. Now, that makes no sense from a human perspective, but your past life is saying any darkness of water gets us to that trigger of that memory. So what happened was many, many years ago, as I said, when I first started with this whole gift and, okay, I have to go heal. And now where am I supposed to turn? I just started going from teacher to teacher and something just said, become a certified hypnotherapist. But I became that because I was really interested in past life regression. And I just intuitively knew that we're all here from past lives and we are working through a lot of karma that many of us just don't understand and we keep repeating from life to life. So in the process of me being a psychic medium and learning to do readings, Spirit finally showed me, well, the reason that we brought you down the path of certified hypnotherapist was to focus on past lives because now you're going to be helping individuals through their lives say, hey, the reason that you keep attracting the same type of person or the reason that this keeps happening with money in your life is because you're burning karma from a past life and you never got the lesson in that life. So past lives are, as we know in this life, we are constantly learning these lessons. And so many of us cross over to the other side from a life not having gotten the lesson. Now we carry that karma into the next incarnation, which means we have to repeat the lesson over again. But nothing is ever one-to-one, meaning if I have an issue with my mom and we don't resolve that issue, before I cross over or she crosses over. Doesn't mean that in the next lifetime, she's going to come back as my mom and we're going to have the same issue. It means we're going to have some sort of relationship in the next life where both of us are at odds still. And the patterns keep repeating over and over again. So maybe in the next lifetime, I'm her mother and now she's my child. But we're going to keep repeating the same pattern over and over again until we start to resolve what the issues are and we learn the lessons.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Oh, let me tell you. I will share this with you. I did not have the best relationship with my father. Very, very dysfunctional childhood. He was an alcoholic. He physically, abused us. It was just terrible, a terrible childhood. And now that I'm into past lives and I understand this, I remember when he was crossing over with cancer, I would sit by his bed and I wouldn't speak to him, but I would telepathically speak to his soul and I would release the karma between us. And I remember releasing it because obviously he's the adult. He's the one that inflicted pain on us. I released the karma because I understood I don't want to do this again with you in another lifetime. I don't want to be the perpetrator. I don't want to be the recipient. I want to let go of whatever karma. I'm going to send love to you. I'm going to douse you in white light and I'm just going to let go of this because I don't want to repeat this lesson. And I did. In that moment, sitting by his bed, I just let it go because I just thought, now that I know, I don't want to redo this. And there's so many of us that say, but why does this keep happening in my life over and over again? Because there's a lesson that we need to learn about ourselves. Many of us are in relationships that we have no business being in because we don't know our worthiness. So we're carrying lack of self-worth from previous lives into this life. And that's why we keep attracting the same bad relationship over and over again.
Wow, that's interesting. So in our case with the deep blue sea, how the hell do we not bring this over again? Because I'm telling you right now, I'm not going in the ocean. This is a big no.
What happens is every life has an imprint to us. So it's not that you're going to repeat the same exact experience. So it's not like you're going to drown in every single life, but you do have the imprint from that life. So instead of saying, okay, I don't know why I have such a problem with deep, dark water, as I do as well, I just know there was a past life that I drowned. So now I'm not going to place myself in a situation that makes me uncomfortable, even though people want me to go out on their boats. I'm like, no, it doesn't make me comfortable, but at least there's
do the same.
It's an but you know what? There's an understanding of now I understand why. Instead of saying, wow, I'm weird. Why is this happening? Now there's an understanding. I understand why. And the other thing too, is they're also telling me you don't like turtlenecks.
I don't like, oh my God,
no
I can't believe you just
sweaters,
said that.
No
I will
scarves,
only wear a mock turtle. No scarves. Oh my God. Well, first of all, I have a short neck. But second of all, I feel like I'm being choked.
Because you were hung. They're showing me that you were hung. And that also—
I don't even wear necklaces, by the way.
Yes. And that also correlates to why you are so into the metaphysical and you're so into the paranormal and the psychics and the mediums. And you're so into that because your past lives of, I almost want to say I don't want to call you a witch, but it has a little bit of that pagan kind of feel. But you were actually hung because of that. So now instead of you practicing the art of witchcraft or mystical or psychic, you're not practicing it. You're working with them because it's safer. Your soul knows I can still be in it, but I can work with them, not practice it.
Wow, that's crazy. I can't even believe you said that. That's so wild.
Yeah, so that's
I'll
why
take my coat and wrap it around my neck to keep warm before I wear a turtleneck.
Exactly. And even that I'm seeing, if it gets up a little too high near your chin, you start to kind of pull it down like, I can't breathe.
I do. People always try to buy me these big chunky necklaces and stuff. I'm like, please stop buying me this.
You're right.
Like, I can't wear this.
I can't wear it.
No. Oh my God, that's hysterical. So how would you suggest other people can tap into their own gifts? Like if they feel they possibly have a gift, what is something they can do to kind of tap in?
Okay. Well, the first thing that I will tell you, and most people should know this, not everyone's supposed to be a medium or a psychic. Just like—
Yes, I 100% believe that.
I love to sit down at a piano, but in this incarnation, I could practice for 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm never going to become a concert pianist because that's not in my soul contract in this lifetime. But if someone wanted to work on their own intuition, work on their own gifts, the very first thing, and I know when I tell people this, their face kind of drops like, oh, that's not what I wanted to hear. But the very first thing is you've got to carve out time in your day to meditate. You've got to ground. Because believe it or not, even though we're human beings walking around on this earth, we are made up energetically very similar to an oak tree, if you can think of that.
Well, see, I think this is very important, by the way, because like I'm super energetic. So I have a hard time just being quiet. So I get on the elliptical. That's what calms me down, kind of keeps everything straightened. So how do you tell people like me or other people who are super energetic, who have a hard time being quiet, how can they actually meditate?
Okay.
That's an important thing.
And now a lot of students that I teach and a lot of clients say the same thing because our mind is used to chatter. That's what we're used to. Meditation and being quiet, being very Zen-like takes a lot of practice. A lot of people say, well, I've tried, but my mind doesn't stop. Well, you have to keep doing it over and over again because you have to kind of convince the mind the soul is in control. So it takes time. So a person has to give themselves time. But because we're from this human experience and we all want everything instantaneously, we want to be able to sit down, meditate for 40 minutes, walk away refreshed. It doesn't work like that. We have to
40 minutes. What?
Even 10 minutes.
More like
no,
5.
I know. But the best thing that I say for people to do is literally just take a little timer and just set it for 2 minutes. That's it. 2 minutes. Just sit there for 2 minutes, nice and quiet. If a thought comes into your mind, just push it out. You'll think about it later and do that for a couple of days, just 2 minutes, then crank it up to 3 minutes, then crank it up to 4 and ease your mind into it. A lot of people jump into it and they think, well, I can't do this. And then they do it for 2 days and they're like, forget it. I give up. Just like when they start diets, they expect to lose 10 pounds in 3 days and then get discouraged when we don't. Same thing with meditation. People get so discouraged because it's not an instantaneous. So a lot of times I say to people, first find something that gets you in a meditative state. Like you said, you're elliptical. Other people walk. Some people do yoga. Other people put music on. Some people actually, believe it or not, get very meditative and Zen-like when they're washing dishes or washing a floor or driving. So find something that gets you in that more quiet state and then practice that for a while. And it takes time, but you've got to build up to it. Don't go in thinking that you're going to quiet your mind for 10 minutes. That's never going to work.
So tell me something. I'm very curious about this. Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop.com reached out to you and put you on her best psychic list. Wow. How did that come about?
Yeah. So
cool.
Again, everything is according to spirit. People don't believe me, but it is. They hit roadblocks and they're like, how come I can't get this far? Or how come I'm having trouble? I'm like, a roadblock is here for a reason. I was just doing my regular work and I was meditating and I just heard spirit say, what is it that you want from this work, right? Because there's so many of us here on Long Island this place is just inundated with psychic mediums. I almost feel like there's one in every corner.
Yeah, it's kind of becoming like the new Lily Dell.
Oh yeah, it's crazy with the number of psychic.
Thinking that.
Yeah. So I remember spirit saying, what do you want to do with this work? And I said, you know what? I really love what I do. I love the readings. I love the teaching and the workshops and the speaking engagements that I do. However, I want to reach a larger audience. I want to reach people that maybe are not living in an area that have a lot of psychic mediums. And I said, just bring me that opportunity. And boom, out of the blue, another medium friend of mine was connecting with this Goop person. And she mentioned the Forever Family Foundation, which is a board on Long Island that has these certified mediums that people can turn to in their moment of grief. We've actually been tested.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, we've been tested because they want to provide a forum for people who've lost children and other loved members. When you're in that place of grief, the last thing you want is to knock on someone's door, a medium's door, and then they just take your money and use your grief against you. So the Forever Family Foundation created an organization where mediums have been certified and tested. They are they are true. They're here for their gift and to give to others. So in the process of this medium speaking with the Goop representative, she said, we have these mediums that are part of Forever Family, and she mentioned my name. And of course, they contacted us and again did a testing because they didn't want to put us in the article unless they had been tested us themselves. So they tested us with different individuals and we did readings and we made the article. And I was so thankful because I thought, wow, Spirit came to me and said, well, what is it that you want to do? What's the next step? I was ready for the next step. And they said, what do you want to do? And I said, take me wherever. I want to reach a larger audience of people so that they can understand what this work is and that they can understand that there are very ethical people out there. Because you know what? I love the whole Long Island medium, Teresa Caputo, love what she did for us, opening up doors to get people to really believe that there is a connection to loved ones that have crossed over, that the body expires, but the spirit continues. But at the same time, it's opened up a lot of doors for a lot of people to put their shingles out there and say that they're mediums when they're really not.
Well, you know what? I absolutely adore you. I do. And you know what? Anybody is lucky to have a reading with you. And if you would like to learn more about Gina or book a reading, go to her website, www.ginasimonemedium.com. Also, check her out for our monthly celebrity group sessions. And remember, you create your life, you create your future. This is Alicia Bowling with Beyond Logic.